The Sydney Council will vote this week to remove anti-racism signs that they erected just a few years ago. The Cumberland Shire in Western Sydney was one of a number of councils that spent thousands of dollars putting up 50 racism not welcome signs. This was all done back in 2022 over fears that Chinese people would be blamed for the COVID virus. Now, just on that, if you're so irrational that you think your Chinese neighbour is responsible for a virus that originated in Wuhan, you're hardly going to be convinced to behave because of a few street signs. But Cumberland Shire have decided, having erected about 50 of these signs, they're now going to bring them down, which begs the question, why are they saying the street signs have worked? Racism has been eradicated? Or maybe they've changed their minds and decided racism is welcome after all. Or just maybe, and I think this one is it, they've decided the signs were always silly and provide no practical purpose other than allowing, virtue signalling councillors to grandstand. The man behind the motion to remove these signs, Paul Jarrod, explained, quote, "I know there's racism within elements of our community, sadly, but having said that, is it an issue that we have to put values on telegraph poles? You might put them on the front door of your building, but putting them on telegraph poles isn't something we should be condoning," which is a really good point, Caleb and Liz. Like, if you're going to put signs up saying no racism, how many other morality tales should you display?
This is the thing. The Cumberland Council have been telling on themselves for so long that they're thoroughly homophobic. I mean, where is the homophobia is not welcome sign? Clearly Islamophobic. Where's the Islamophobia is not welcome sign? I mean, it is clear that they condone all of these things because they refuse to put up any signs against it. As I said privately to this lot earlier, I mean, clearly the signs are now surplus to requirements because they put them up, they fixed the racism is gone. Why do you need the signs anymore? The fact that anyone thought, and they're everywhere, they're all over Sydney, I assume they're in other parts of the country as well.
It was a national campaign.
The fact that anyone thought, yes, I know what we can do to solve racism, we'll put a sign up on a telegraph pole and that'll finally change everyone's mind. You don't change people's minds with street signs. You change people's minds by actually talking to them and convincing them of things. And I think this is a major problem with a lot of the campaigning on the left, is that they don't understand if you actually want to change someone's mind, you've got to challenge them. A street sign is not challenging anyone. It's a slogan. And so often that's all they care about. It's the symbolism, the virtue signalling, to say that, well, this is what I think. I mean, I think racism is bad, so I must be a good person. But you've not made any attempt to actually change a racist person's mind. You've done nothing to better the world. You've just made yourself feel better. It's why they talk about, we've got to change the date of Australia Day. You know how many Indigenous lives that would help in this country? Big fat zero. But it doesn't matter because I feel better because I think I'm doing something better for the world. That's what these signs were all about. I'm glad someone has woken up to the fact that they mean nothing.
Well, there's always been people on the Cumberland Council that have known this was ridiculous. So they voted in February of 2022 to put these signs up. But the previous year, the mayor at the time, Steve Christou, which you'd be familiar with, he's an absolute legend, had used a tiebreaker vote to vote them down. These signs aren't going up in our electorate. This is ridiculous. Why are you inferring that our council is racist to begin with? That's the unspoken inference if you're going to put up such signs. So the following year, Steve Christou is no longer the mayor, and in February, the council went to vote again back in 2022, and this time it got up. So you can imagine that Steve Christou, who is still on council, he's just not mayor, and this fellow Paul Jarrod, who's been a councillor for 50 years as of September last year, congrats, mate, talk about a lifetime of service. That's incredible.
An award for putting up with all of that.
These guys, goodness knows how many numbers they've otherwise gotten on council, but smart councillors know there's no use me putting this to a vote if I don't have a chance of winning. These guys are part of the original contingent who voted no in the first place. And it's funny to note that in February 2022, as Cumberland Council, I keep going to say choir, Cumberland Choir. Cumberland Council was voting to put these up. Woollahra Council were voting to take theirs down. Of course, that vote didn't get up. It was lost by a vast majority. But those councillors in Woollahra were doing exactly the same thing, saying, why are you insinuating that people who live in Woollahra are racist? We've had so many people complain to us and be like, why are these signs popping up all over Woollahra? Where's the data to support this? Where's the racism outbreak? Is there violence? Is there name calling that we're unaware of? To which, of course, the councillors couldn't support their decision at all because, as usual, it is, like you say, Caleb, just a virtue signalling exercise.
I had this problem in the inner west where you are from, and they put these signs up.
I live there. I'm not from there. I wanted to be noted.
When you moved in there. But they had to explain when they put these signs up in different streets, because, I mean, it's 50 signs, right? So it's not every street, it's select streets. So they had to explain them when they put up a racism not welcome sign in a particular street. They weren't inferring people in that street had a particular problem with racism. But then what do you say to people of other ethnicities in streets where signs were not erected? The council saying they don't care about protecting those particular people, which shows just how ridiculous this virtue signalling becomes.
I can't wait for the onslaught of racist people who now move into Cumberland Council because they will realise finally,
it's okay.
It's okay, go into
Well, to be clear, it hasn't yet been.
No, I know.
So
hopefully,
let's be
Wednesday
clear.
night.
Wednesday night. Hopefully, we can bring you some good news. It's just that the force of those signs has kept the racist people out of Cumberland for so long, and it's going to be taken away.